AI is coming to the iPhone, and of course it's called Apple's intelligence. Microsoft's intelligence was to stop making recalls so bad, and AMD is putting up big numbers on the mobile, and we got some details on 3D V-Cache for Ryzen 9000. Let's get into the hot news, everybody. I'm your Brett host. We're going to be going over the hottest tech news that I can find on the internet while you enjoy your breakfast this Monday, June 10th, 2024. Thank you for everybody who tuned into our Computex 2024 coverage. We're now back here in the States, getting ready to catch up on a lot of stuff that we missed that got debuted during the week of Computex that I just couldn't keep up with because we were running around the show floor and I wasn't able to do a lot of hot news. But let's talk about something that's going to be happening today through this week. Apple's having their Worldwide Developers Conference, also known as WWDC, and we've got some details that are coming out before the event that should be validated later on today about exactly what Apple's going to be bringing to the table. Up first is obviously AI. They're going to be bringing AI to their devices, but one of the things that's going to be cool about this is that they're calling it Apple Intelligence, because that's what the A stands for. Good marketing from Apple there. But one of the things they're doing is partnering with OpenAI, and they're going to have both on-device computing as well as cloud computing, and depending on what workload you're trying to do for AI or machine learning on your phone, they will just decide which one it goes to, whether it's kept locally or then hit the cloud if it's too intensive for your device. But what's too intensive for your eyes sometimes is those silly little icons for your apps when they're in not dark mode. How could you stand light mode, you peasant? And that's exactly what's allegedly coming to iOS 18, supposed to be announced at WWDC, is that there will be dark mode apps. They will have a slight dark tint to them, but also kind of cooler than that is that they're going to be enabling Face ID or Touch ID unlock for specific apps if you want to enable that, so that you can have certain apps on your device locked behind your biometrics in case you want it to be that only you are unlocking that. Similar to logging in, but it's at the first stage of launching the app rather than later on when you're trying to log into your account. Additionally, they're supposed to be launching a new passwords app that's supposed to kind of go hand in hand with their iCloud keychain setup, but it'll sync across a multitude of different devices, kind of compete with 1Password, LastPass, and other password managers, and it will not just be stuck to Apple devices, it will also allegedly come to Windows as well. However, the report is still out for Android, whether or not it's going to be supported there. But again, WWDC is happening this week, so we'll probably have more details to update you with as hot news continues on. And I want to update you about some things that I did see at Computex last week, and that is Fractal's new setup, because they're sponsoring today's episode of Hot News for me to tell you about the cool things that they showed off. So they have two new cases that they unveiled, as well as new product categories that they're entering into. You definitely know, if you've watched UFD Tech, that we're a huge fan of everything that Fractal's been doing lately, from the Ridge to the Terra to the North to the North XL, just sleek, refined designs. And what they showed off at Computex is no different, starting off with the Mood case, which has the fabric similar to the front on the Ridge, except for now it's all around the PC case so that it fits in with a home theater setup, and honestly, in my opinion, kind of looks like a speaker. That should be launching in just about a week in case you want to get your hands on that. Additionally, they're coming out with the Era 2, which is an update to the previous Era that launched a few years ago, but now has a few refinements, including a unibody aluminum cover, as well as having the wood paneling on top to just make it look super refined and super sleek. And while we're staying on cases, I do want to talk about the one thing that everybody really loved at Computex that Fractal says that they have no plans to sell as of right now, is a Raspberry Pi case that they were using to showcase their next product category, but it's in the design scheme of the Fractal North. Absolutely gorgeous. A ton of people wanted them to sell this. But speaking of the new product categories that they're getting into, the Fractal Refine is going to be their first entry into a chair, which, after being able to sit on it, it's incredibly comfortable, very nice, very supported. You have padded armrests. It's going to come in either breathable mesh or soft padded fabric in light or dark color palettes, and it can also be available in Alcantara. It goes very well with the theme of what Fractal's been doing lately, which is just gamer focused things that don't have to necessarily look look like RGB or anything that stands out from a more refined taste. It absolutely looks gorgeous, and it sat really great too. And while you're getting to sit down and play games on your new Fractal Mood and your Fractal Refined chair, you can also put on the headset of the Fractal Scape. Fractal's initial entry into the headset category, honestly, these things were some of the most comfortable headsets that I've ever had the ability to grace my ears. Very soft fabric, it comes with a wireless charging stand, continues in that very sleek design aesthetic, but also supports low latency audio through a dongle, multi-device Bluetooth 5.3 connectivity, and comes with a super wideband flip to mute detachable microphone, as well as ambient lighting and audio presets. As mentioned, the Fractal Mood should launch on June 18th next week. The Era 2 is supposed to be available in Q3, as well as the Fractal Refine, and then the Fractal Scape should be coming later in 2024 with no specific ETA. Some very beautiful things coming out from Fractal. They honestly had some of the most gorgeous things that I got to see at Computex 2024. And speaking of Fractal, we're actually giving away a Fractal North XL gaming PC over on Twitch this coming Friday. You can see it right here over on our Twitch stream. We're going to be drawing the winner for that this coming week, so you can get yourself a Fractal case while you wait for the rest of the things to get launched. And before it ever even officially came out, Microsoft is kind of unlaunching some of the features of their Windows Recall setup. You might remember Windows Recall was the ability for AI to search whatever you've done on your PC, because it takes regular screenshots of what you're doing on your computer. However, with people getting previews of Windows Recall, what they found is that basically all of this is getting stored in plain text. There is no security, no encryption. People were able to dump the files elsewhere and have them recovered from not just locally on the device, but actually have them extracted to somewhere else. A whole lot of security concerns with this, especially with Microsoft saying that one of their latest pushes is going to be for security. The fact that they even thought this could launch, especially next week on June 18th, which is when these AI PCs are supposed to come out, was very laughable. So Microsoft has come out and recanted on a few things. Number one, they are making it opt-in, and it does not come enabled by default, which is what everybody wanted in the first place. It's a very brilliant idea. Number two, they are making it so that when you actually have it enabled on a local user account, it requires biometric authentication through Windows Hello in order to access all of these details. So it should encrypt the files behind the biometrics, which is something that was just so ridiculous not to have in the first place. But it looks like Microsoft's going to be moving forward with that. Now, there are still plenty of other security concerns with Windows Recall that do not get addressed with what Microsoft's bringing to the table here, but it is definitely a good start for them to change it up and make it so that people can trust it a little bit more. And people seem to trust what HTC's got going on with their phone market, because they put out a little teaser of this phone saying coming soon, to which plenty of other YouTubers like MKBHD said, "What year is it?" And Jerry Rig Everything said, "Welcome back, baby." But the thing to remember here is that HTC never stopped making phones. They released the HTC U23 Pro last year. This is likely just to be the U24 Pro as an update to 2024. So HTC never went anywhere, so I'm confused why all of the excitement and hype is around it, but it's going to be happening next week. But we're supposed to get an update this coming week on Wednesday to find out what exactly this device is going to be. And one of the things that happened at Computex that I'm curious to see if and when will ever get updated, that is the XPG Nia handheld that got shown off. This is made by XPG, which is typically known for making memory. We've done a video recently covering one of their laptops, but the Nia handheld had a cool few ideas. It's supposed to allegedly have foveated rendering, which means wherever you're looking at on the screen is what's getting rendered at the fullest resolution, and then everything else is rendered at a lower resolution, which is a trick that's typically used in VR headsets. Additionally, it's going to feature LP Cam 2, which means that it's going to have swappable DRAM so that you can upgrade it. Additionally, it has this weird little flip out screen to make it a little bit more ergonomic and comfortable, and it's going to be built on AMD's APU to make it all good and fast. This is a neat handheld. It's one of the few that got shown off at Computex. One of the reasons I didn't actually cover it, even though I did find it on the show floor, we didn't do any vertical content on it like we did for several of the others, is the fact that this screamed prototype to me. I looked at this thing and I was like, oh, the screen is like wavy. It's not even like fully put together. It seems so rushed and so slapdash together that I don't trust that XPG is going to come out with this. I can absolutely be proven wrong here, but XPG told other outlets that it's not likely to come out until 2025, so this is not making it to the market anytime soon. There did seem to be a lot of that, like with the handheld that came out from Zotac. It just feels like this is in response to the success of the Steam Deck and the ROG Ally, where all of these companies are trying to rush their entries into the market, which there was plenty of reasons to doubt the Zotac Zone handheld as well, speaking to other more handheld focused creators at Computex like the Fox, who didn't necessarily sing the praises very highly of the Zotac Zone. It's a neat idea, it's a cool concept. We'll see if it makes it to market, and we'll see if Reece has deals from the market today, because he was at Computex too. I don't know if he's recovered yet or not. Well, the deal of the lifetime is going on for Nvidia, and no, I'm not talking about their stock, which is surging to make them the second most valuable company in the entire world. No, they are at 2 decades high market share when it comes to their GPUs being sold. Reports are coming out that Nvidia is shipping more and more GPUs, AMD is shipping fewer and fewer, and Intel's essentially shipping none. At launch, Intel sold roughly 300,000 units. Now it looks like they sold about 50,000 units, and their market share is down to essentially zero, but AMD is not necessarily faring that much better, with them crashing down to 12% and Nvidia having 88% of the market. Now this does include gaming GPUs as well as potentially some of the Quadro lineup, so obviously a lot of this is going towards AI, but it does show that AMD is just losing its foothold in the market. We're expecting that the RX 8000 series is not necessarily supposed to be an upgrade over what's currently out there that you can buy right now, so likely that's not going to change anytime soon. But according to reports that were coming out from Computex, with people who got to speak to individuals behind the scenes about when we can expect these GPUs, the answer is we don't really know. Obviously, Intel showed off XE2 with their Lunar Lake launch. We covered that in our sponsored video by them. We got some details on Battlemage, but what we did not get was a release date, and we definitely did not get a release date on the discrete gaming GPUs. And then on the AMD and Nvidia side, based on other people talking to vendors, it seems like it's a split. It could either be Q4 or it could be Q1 of next year. It's not quite known, but I wouldn't necessarily expect that you're going to be buying them much before the holiday season. But what does appear to be rather well known is that the laptop RTX 50 series definitely will not be hitting the streets until 2025. This is coming out from some leaked Clevo material, which is a laptop ODM, and it looks like that, yes, these GDDR7 RTX 50 series GPUs will be coming out in 2025. Likely a CES launch. That's when Nvidia and Intel tend to like to refresh their gaming lineup of their mobile processors. So expect that. It doesn't look like there's going to be a VRAM upgrade on the highest end 5090 mobile. It's still going to be 16 gigs, but will be GDDR7. And speaking of the memory side of things, Micron actually publishing some expected benchmarks of the next generation of GPUs in one of their slides that they put out, showing that the GDDR7 platforms can be about 70 times faster than the GDDR6 platforms, which can be a significant increase from the GDDR6X platforms. This obviously is meaningless in terms of knowing FPS or knowing anything about the GPU, but since we have already gotten details that AMD is not expected to go to GDDR7, this might be the first graph we're looking at for the RTX 50 series cards. Very nice. But speaking of AMD not really having anything on the GPU side, that didn't stop their board partners from showcasing that they do have some stuff to put into their graphics cards. PowerColor showing off an AMD GPU with a dedicated NPU installed. This is very similar to what Nvidia has with the RTX 20 series and up, which have tensor cores. Those are dedicated neural processing units, and PowerColor decided to add one into their AMD GPU, which they're saying can reduce power consumption by 22% while gaming, which is more than AMD's power saving modes. It gives you better power savings than before, because what the AI is doing is taking a whole lot of things into consideration, like intelligently detecting GPU temperature changes and dynamically controlling the fan speed and then reducing the power consumption. But what's interesting is the benchmarks that were showcased for this. With the NPU disabled, it got higher FPS, lower temperatures, and yes, it did draw more wattage, but when you enabled the NPU, it lowered the FPS, increased the temperatures because it decreased the fan speed, and then obviously subsequently dropped the wattage. Now, the amount of power that's being decreased is not the same as the amount of FPS that is lost, but it does show that, I mean, to some extent, you're just losing FPS because you're downclocking the GPU, and the temperature is going up because you're lowering the fan speed. It's an intriguing little setup. We'll see if it ever actually makes it to market or if this is just a prototype that PowerColor showed off at Computex. But we also have some preliminary benchmarks of AMD's mobile processors, the AI HX 370. Fantastic name, AMD. I'm still not necessarily over that, but showing off that the 890M that's supposed to be going inside of this based on the RDNA 3.5 GPU is going to be significantly faster than the 780M in OpenCL, which is not necessarily indicating anything on the frame rate gaming side of things, and especially it doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you compare it to the amount of teraflops that it has compared to the 780M. It's only roughly 1.6 teraflops increase, and because the architecture hasn't changed a whole lot, it doesn't make sense that it'd be outperforming it by that much. However, we're also expecting that maybe it should be better in ray tracing, but the raw gaming performance shouldn't be as significant as this chart makes it seem. But let's look at the CPU side of things, because we got leaked benchmarks on that, and these chips appear to be pretty performant when it comes to their CPU, showing that it beats the previous 7940HS by 12.9% in single thread, 25% in multi-thread, and when compared to the 7945 HX3D mobile processor, the HX370 in silent mode actually gets very close to that processor, even though it's running in sort of an eco mode, both in single core and multi-core, getting very close to the previous gen X3D in silent mode. Obviously, this is preliminary benchmarks of an engineering sample. Final numbers are likely to be different, but potentially if you can boost the power rating on the HX 170, 370, whatever the heck they're going to be called, it might actually compete with the X3D mobile chips that are out there. But speaking of X3D, we have some details coming out about the Ryzen 9000 desktop X3D chips, because a lot of people were wondering, hey, AMD, you didn't really compare your Ryzen 9000 to like the 7800 X3D, so what's up? We don't have any details on that, like why they chose not to compare the 9000 to 7800 X3D, but we did get details on the upcoming 9000 X3D chips, and that is they're working on it, but not in the similar way that they've had the 7800 X3D. One of the things that they're saying is that they're actively working on really cool differentiators to make it even better. They're working on X3D and improving it. So not just slapping in the same setup that we got for the 5000 and 7000 series, but bringing in a new allocation of how X3D is going to work on Ryzen 9000. So hopefully, this is my personal desire, they fix it so that you don't have to park your cores on the 16 core. If they could put 3D V-Cache that's accessible by all cores on the high-end Ryzen 9s, that would be great. That would make them way better chips and way more competitive. As far as timeline, AMD didn't really discuss that, but if I had to personally guess, they're just waiting for Intel to drop Arrow Lake whenever that happens to hit the desktop markets, which is supposed to be later this year. So AMD is probably holding on to that until Intel launches their stuff so that they can hit back with X3D variants of the Ryzen 9000. And I'm gonna hit you guys back with all of the comments that you left on a bunch of our videos that we've released over the week. I have not done comment response in a little while, so let's take a look at some of the Computex videos that we put out. So over on the ASRock video that launched yesterday, Strauss said, "I love it when ASRock listens to their intrusive thoughts. They end up making either the silliest things or the coolest things." And Direct the X saying, "The elderly folks on here might remember the 8-bit IT7 Max, which took the unheard of step of having only USB-A, no serial, no parallel, no PS2. I'm not old enough for that." But one of the people we did get to talk to at the ASRock booth was the product manager in charge of making that next-gen Intel board that has all of that USB-C, and he was like, "I had to fight for this. This was not necessarily something that everybody at ASRock was on board for. There had to be convincing, and one of the compromises was that they're going to put an adapter in the box so that you can connect it to the USB-C. So it is really cool. I like the idea, especially putting it on a flagship board. It's not going to be on every board, but it is there in the lineup. And then over on the Intel video, we got the awesome Caleb saying, I'm hoping Intel keeps on pushing forward. We really need more competition in GPUs. And then we got Just Xavier saying, I need comparisons against the Snapdragon X chipset. That's part of the problem, right? Like that was one of the things that came up in the initial Q&A during the first day of the Intel Lunar Lake Tech Tour, was that they can't compare it to the Snapdragon X chipset because that hasn't officially launched yet. They might have it in their testing labs. They didn't say anything about that, but even if they do, they can't come out and publicly compare it to a chipset that has not even launched yet. They're not out. Third-party benchmarks for Snapdragon X Plus and X Elite aren't making the rounds as impressively as we would like to see them, so we're kind of waiting on benchmarks from everybody, and you can't do a pre-released architecture against another pre-released architecture because you're just not allowed to have access to them. And then on the thermal take video, we got Dragon 2 Night saying, big thermal take case fan here. You're saying you're a case fan or you're a thermal take case fan? I've built 8 computers and counting with their tower cases. I like the latest lineup, especially the colors. I seriously want to use the tiny TR100 portable case. Don't need it, but man, I want it. Nice roundup. I agree. That's where I'm at with the TR100. It's a gorgeous case. I love the colorway. Thermaltake Mike was so excited to tell us that this was a case that is finally small from Thermaltake. They still have the Tower 250, 300, 600, but the TR100 is coming in and actually making it the really compact. It's good stuff. I love all the colors. I like what Thermaltake's doing. Then on the MSI video, we got Jay the guy saying gaming setup from 2024. AI monitor check, AI GPU check, AI CPU check, AI AIO check, AI PSU check, AI thermal paste check, AI case check, AI case fans check, AI table check, AI chair check, AI webcam check, AI mic check, AI headset check, AI motherboard check, AI RAM check, AI NVMe check, AI SATA SSD check, AI girlfriend check. Good stuff, man. That does appear to be where we're at right now. And then on the AMD Ryzen 9000 launch video, we got NF276 saying it over 9000. Horace saying, dang, aim for the GOAT. And Vanadium saying the 9800 X3D is a scary idea. Intel should be shivering in their boots right now. I'm excited for it. I want to see what they have for X3D coming up, but that's also probably going to bite them in the bones a little bit when it comes to, are people going to upgrade to Ryzen 9000, or is it going to be like Ryzen 7000 where people just waited until X3D came out? And then let's cover the last episode of Hot News that I did before Computex started. We got Duct Tape saying Nvidia saving the 512-bit for the RTX 4090 Titan Super Ti Force X. And then Death Size saying my first 90 card will be the RTX 6090 for reasons. Nice. Oh, that was a lot to get through. This was a long episode of Hot News. Obviously, Computex put us behind a little bit. There's also a lot coming out. Thank you for sticking with us. Don't forget that we do have the giveaway for that Fractal North PC that's going to be happening this coming Friday, in case you want to check that out. And we'll be having more videos coming out later this week, more Hot News. There's also one last full Computex video that has to come out later today. So we'll see you there for that. Thanks, friends. Bye.